So he brings a whole different perspective to stuff. Very helpful into accounting and the commissioners.
I have no idea. All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the February 8th, 2022 meeting of the Escambia Children's Trust Board, and we appreciate your interest for coming. If you ladies would like to speak, we're so glad to have you, and Ryan too. Yes, you can fill out the form in the back if you would like to speak. At this time, there was an agenda that was passed out, and there's also another one that I think that was sent around too. We need to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion and a second?
Move
So
to
moved.
adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, all in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
All right, now we're going to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 Escambia Children's Trust meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to
Move.
approve.
Second?
Second.
All right, any more discussion?
Could I ask that there be some kind of a notification sent to us when those things are posted?
Great
Just
idea.
to remind me that I should go look at them. Being on the school board, they're sent to me, just, that I sometimes forget to go look for them, so.
Can we add that to the minutes for this month? And then we can tell Tammy that as well. Because I don't know if Miss Emily will still be doing the minutes after next month. Okay, so we have. That was news to her. Well, I don't know. She might be, but Appleyard won't be working, right? I mean, we would love for you to be able to do it, but I don't know what Tammy, I don't know. So it wasn't me. Okay. I just meant that Carolyn may not be here next month. All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that passes. Right now, we are going to have our report for our interim administrator. It might be our last report ever.
I'm so excited. Tammy,
Get the microphone.
thank you. Tammy should be here next Monday. She's excited. I'm excited. Y'all should be excited because she is going to be great. She is going to be housed at the Appleyard Agency until she decides where she wants to go. So, we have internet and a phone system and a spot. So that's big progress. She'll be meeting individually with each of you, I'm sure, that first week. This afternoon, I emailed you the D&O policy. It's 37 pages, so just file it electronically for your records. You will be getting at some point a request from the Florida Ethics Commission. They have changed to electronic filing, so I had to give all of them some information for you on that. I think that's everything. And I will be sitting here, either with Walter or Melissa, depending on who's sitting out there until further notice. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Appleyard.
Can I ask Carolyn what the status is of her invoicing? Did you get any movement on that since the last meeting for all your services?
Say it again?
Your invoicing for your services.
Oh, for my services?
Yeah, no, the doctor had asked you, had you moved forward with that? and you were still getting
all
trained or
bills have
something?
been paid. All bills have been paid.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Great
So we've
news.
been reimbursed for the name tags and fun things like that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, now we're going to do a report from Executive Committee meeting. We met on January 19th at the Hall Center to discuss the quote from Branch Benefits on the Director and Officer Insurance. And we looked at the proposal, and they recommended that we use Indian Harbor Insurance Company. And you got a copy of it today. The premium along with the policy fee, the brokerage fee, the surplus lines taxes, and state service office fee totaled $8,827.35. So as of January 26th, we now have directors and officers insurance. We also discussed the surety bond that we were required to have by statute, and Dr. Smith and I both had to sign off of that and we mailed that in, and we received a quote today for it's from the Old Republic Surety, and for each bond is $355 for a 4-year term. And they want to know if we can confirm that we are good to issue those based on the total cost of $710. I told her I would have to get board approval before we could agree to pay them for the surety bond. As you recall, that the surety bond is required by law, so we do have to have that. So I will need a motion and a second.
I move that we approve the surety bonds as vetted by the executive committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, oh, sorry, any more discussion, all in favor. Also, we are required by law to have workers' comp insurance before Ms. Greer starts on Monday. So I requested that back on January the 5th with our insurance company. On January 28th, they wrote back and said that 4 people have declined. I said, well, please continue to follow up. We have to have workers' comp insurance. Today, I sent another reminder that we needed the information, and I got an email today from them stating that, I'm trying to find my email exactly, that they needed my social security number, and they also wanted to know if any of the other board was going to be on, needed workers' comp, or any of the board members. And I said, I don't want to give you my social security number. And we do not, I'm not employed for the company, and I'm not employed. I don't necessarily need it. I don't need the work. I don't need it for me. I need it for the employee. So we went back and forth. They finally called me this afternoon, and so I guess I'm telling you all this because I'm going to see if that's okay with you if I get Meredith and to have them help me out to figure out workers' comp, because this is not my specialty. But basically what they're saying is only a handful of workers' compensation companies provide coverage based on the classification which we are as a municipality. And they've approached carriers and the minimum premium started at $25,000. They said that's too much, so now they're looking to look at other carriers and classify it as a social services operation. And then second, they're looking at the assigned risk market with the Florida Workers' Compensation Joint Underwriting Association to secure coverage. And they need my social security number to do all that. So if that's required, I'm happy to do that, but I just kind of would like Clark Partington to help me navigate this, and to use their services for it.
I just got an email from Ted Granger and Leon
that, yeah.
giving us the name of who they used, just so you'll have some idea. Yeah.
So, and I also reached out to Robert Bender, and he said that was unusual to ask for social security numbers, but they explained their reasoning. I need more expertise.
I'll make that motion for you.
Is there a second that I use?
Second.
So any more discussion on using Clark Partington to help me figure this out? All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
All in
Oh, for
favor?
discussion.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so Meredith, if you can help me navigate this. Okay.
But again, I guess I'm a little concerned that if we're required to carry workers' comp and she started on Monday and we don't have a workers' comp and then something happens before we get it. So, I mean,
So
it's
it's
Tuesday.
gonna
It'll be Appleyard's problems because she'll be in their building.
So, yeah, so I'm at Meredith and we'll get on this, I've been working on it all afternoon. And we'll get on this tomorrow, but I've been trying since January 5th to get this stuff done. I just am concerned about giving my social security number.
Sure.
And when she
Did-
told me, on the phone, she specifically said, well, I already have your social security number, because Dr. Smith and I had to give it to them for their surety bond. She goes, well, I already have it, but before I used it, I wanted to make sure it was okay with you. I was like, well, that was polite, so.
Chair, did she, would they use the FEIN for the organization?
She said that whatever carrier they're using is requiring my social security number.
That
So-
makes sense if it's an employee who's being covered by it, but because you're the chair and not covered by it, it just makes sense that you could get the coverage
Mm-hmm.
under the FEIN. Not having an employee, and then when employees come on board, you give them their socials.
Right.
That just doesn't make any sense.
So I just want to give you all that update as to what's going on, and I appreciate you allowing me to use Clark Partington to help me.
I have a question. So will you need anything from us to be able to secure the workman's comp before Monday?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so now we'll go to personnel.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get into the contract, I just want to thank Carolyn Appleyard for her services to this board. I do not know what we would have done without you. I mean, there's just no way, we probably could have done it. It would have taken a lot longer. A lot, maybe we would not be where we are today, that's for sure. But I don't think people understand the time that you've put in, volunteering, not being paid. Anything that's been paid to you has been reimbursed. And to give of your time and yourself away from your family throughout this process is greatly appreciated. And so thank you very much. I just cannot put into words what I think of you and how you've handled yourself and how you've helped this board, because it's incredible work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Y'all are giving your time too. We all do what we can, so I do appreciate it. And of course, as a native of Escambia, and I imagine I'll be buried here too, so it's all about the children. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, thank you. So the Personnel Committee met, and we've met several times. The last meeting, we spent at least 3.5 hours going through the employment contract and discussing each item and issues at length, looking at all sides of the issues, how we were going to formulate this. And Meredith worked on it and put it together. And what we have here tonight is the contract to offer to our executive director. Just a few highlights, I would say it's a one-year contract. The compensation is $120,000 a year. There's other compensation, including automobile expense, cell phone use. We have moving expenses in here as well of $7,500, and it's to pay. Also, she'll be taxed on that, so we made allocations to pay those taxes as well. From working with Landrum, it's standard industry practice of what we've come up with. I think that the contract is fair on both sides in terms of the information in it. We had to check a lot of boxes, cover a lot of bases. And with that, I think y'all have had an opportunity to review it, but we'd be glad to entertain any questions.
I did have some comments that I sent today that I at least could, is it appropriate just to raise them, or you got them, so I didn't know if you wanted to walk them through or wanted me to?
Either way, I'm happy to address the comments you sent me, or you can bring them
I'll
up.
start them out and then you can help me navigate them, because I don't have them in front of me. Maybe you do. The first one was just, I thought it was like a kind of a Scrivener's error. There was a paragraph 2C that referred to if the executive director wanted to leave on their own accord. It provided for her being, the executive director being paid for the time served. And then later, there's another paragraph, 13D, that spoke to the same issue. But in addition to time served, it also added the 60-day notice period. And I thought because those two somewhat contradicted each other, didn't have the complete sentence in both, that we could just get rid of 2C and we have it covered in 13D. That was just a note to remove paragraph 2C, just a recommendation. And I didn't see any, that was a controversy, or if 2C is needed for some reason.
No, 2C really just states that the employee can resign at any time and provides that a 60-day prior written notice is required. Later in the termination, section 13, it does repeat that the employee may voluntarily resign, and there also includes the 60 days written notice. It requires in 13D that if early term, like if she gives a 60-day notice and the board decides that she should leave before the 60 days is complete, that she would be paid the unpaid balance of the salary. So to the extent that it is repetitive, it doesn't hurt to remove 2C. So I'm happy
So
to,
the recommendation is just to remove 2C, and that way it doesn't contradict with 13D, because it's not the same wording. I didn't know if, do we want to deal with these one by one, or?
Yeah, if that's good with our attorney, I'm fine with that.
Okay, the second one is the severance pay, is that right?
the next issue, yes, was the
Yeah,
severance.
so I had read it and saw that the severance pay was set at a 16-week payout on top of whatever was owed for time worked. And of course, 16 weeks is 4 months of pay, which is 40 grand. So my concern with that is that in a first year of employment, I thought that was excessive. So I'm recommending 8 weeks. And that maybe if we stay engaged with this executive director, which I hope we will, that be something we consider to modify in the future, that we extend more severance options, but we not start with 4 months. So I just wanted to raise the issue of, could we start with 8 weeks versus 16 weeks?
So the 16 weeks is what was determined by the Personnel Committee, and that's what's been discussed with the employee or potential employee. I'm happy to change the contract as the board directs.
I think when we discuss that, is this being a new venture, there's got to be trust on both sides that we value her leaving her job and moving here and going. So there's got to be stability on both sides, that she feels comfortable that she's not going to run into a buzzsaw and then be left for whatever reason. And boards can get boards can get sideways. It's happened in the past. So it's more of a understanding on both sides that we value this relationship and we want to make sure it works, but to make sure there's comfort on both sides that we're not going to leave her high and dry if something didn't work out. But I'm open for any other thoughts on that.
I would agree with you, David, because I think that we decided this as a personnel committee, and it's already been discussed, and that would reopen the negotiations in my mind if we made that change.
I think one reason we chose 16 weeks is because we had a chart of what the other trusts did as well. And some were 16. 16 was the lowest end, others were 20, and we thought 20 was way too much. But I understand your point. At the first year, that is 4 months is a lot.
And this
so.
is the without cause provision. So I can't imagine a condition under which that would happen. But if it did, and we weren't willing to document why we were dismissing someone, I guess for some part of me is just conservative in our first year. We ought not to just give $40,000 and have somebody walk out. So it just seemed to be an excessive amount in the first year of employment. I could imagine that we would get there in the second or third year. I was troubled by it being in our first year. And I didn't know if it was based on industry standards. So like you said, if you've looked at the other trusts and that was the lowest, then I imagine that was the lowest in their first year also.
Meredith has the charts. I don't have the chart in front of me, but
So the other trusts that we surveyed, Broward County offers 20 weeks severance, Palm Beach County offers 20 weeks severance, Alachua, 20 weeks severance, Juvenile Welfare Board of Pinellas is 12, Miami-Dade is 16, Martin County is 4 months, Hillsborough County is 12.
So we have a 4 and 2 12s that is less than 16. And one of the 16s, I think, is Alachua, which is a relatively new council.
Alachua is 20 weeks severance
Yeah,
pay.
it's 20, yeah.
Clarifying question, without cause, when we refer to that, that is just on our end, correct?
If the trust terminates her employment, not if
Okay.
she, without cause.
It's basically a serve at the pleasure clause, right? It's the fact that at any point, the trust could say, thanks for playing, please get your keys.
Yes,
And
and-
at that point,
and
we
in-
owe her 4 months of income.
In 2B, it also clarifies that nothing shall prevent or interfere with the right of the ECT to terminate the services at any time, subject only to these provisions.
And if nobody else has the concern I have, then I will just withdraw the concern. So what was the third issue I mentioned?
The last thing you mentioned was,
Oh, the additional, where, when we're reconsidering the contract, we might increase the salary, and I asked to add the words, or reduce,
that's under paragraph 15, performance
because
evaluations.
it didn't give any option to reduce the salary, and I thought that that would be a smart thing to add, that we might consider salary reduction if the performance was poor.
And so your request was to add under, following the word salary increases or reduction. So the phrase would be assess any salary increases or reductions,
Could we just say adjustments?
any salary adjustments?
Yes.
That would be cleaner.
Sure.
David, does that sound
Yeah, that's good.
fair to the Personnel
Sure.
Committee?
That sounds good.
Thank you.
So is there any other comments or questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept it.
Yes, we did have just one point on item 8 with the moving expenses. We were, in the budget committee, we talked about this to make sure we had that amount include
Right, so,
taxes, right?
so the amount reads for moving expenses up to $8,121.28, gross pay, which is $7,500 net of Social Security and Medicare withholdings. And I did run that language by our accounting firm to confirm that that's the correct way to describe.
Okay, so we're all good there. Okay,
Right, this does reflect that change.
okay, thank you.
I did have a question about the travel reimbursement. I think it said that there was a cap of $300 per month for travel, and that she had to record all of her mileage and turn that in at the end of the month. Are we basing that on the state 44.5 cents a mile, or is there something in our travel policy that defines what the travel reimbursement is?
I believe the reimbursement rate is at the state of Florida, what is recognized by the IRS. You don't have an adopted travel policy as of yet, but the $300, that amount was determined by the Personnel Committee after reviewing the car allowances of the other trusts. That would be within Escambia County. After meeting with the accounting firm and learning and tax implications, is where the requirement that she submit documentation of mileage, and that would all be processed through the accounting firm. And then as far as out-of-state, or I'm sorry, out-of-county travel, that would be handled on a reimbursement or paid in advance.
Walter, we'll be sure that when we do the policy on travel that we include at state rate, so that,
Yeah, I was just, as I read it, I was like, are we really going to make her document her mileage? Why don't we just give her a $300? But now it sounds like we have to because it's a reimbursement model.
Correct.
Okay.
And our
she would-
accountant's here, he can explain the tax laws if we want him to.
well, but does she still get the $300? She just has to provide verification that she went somewhere?
So,
Well, she'd have to drive
I
674
know.
miles to
Well, I
get
mean-
$300.
We, of course, the school district's different, I guess, but, you know, we just have an auto allowance. He gets it whether he stays in his room all day or not.
Oh, that's what I was getting to. I was thinking that this was a stipend, but it doesn't appear to be. The way it's written, it appears to be a reimbursement cap. And that's like 20 miles a day for 30 days in the month. So it isn't, it doesn't sound like it would be exceeded. 674 miles is a lot of miles. So it seems like that's well within, that's a good controlling number. And I would imagine any, like you said, out-of-state travel, conference travel, anything like that, that's outside of this.
I believe when we met with Ryan on Friday, you made the point that traveling to and from work does not count, correct? It's, you know, so if she's driving to Appleyard or to an office, that doesn't count, so that's another thing.
This was an attempt to get it tax-free.
You gotta get to the mic and press the red button, press the button that says speak.
Is that on? So that was in an attempt to get it tax-free, and I don't know if the board's intention is to go $300. We can give it a flat $300 and then figure out what is taxable, reimbursable versus not. That is completely up to the board. If she submits mileage for, you know, $100 reimbursed, we give her $300, $200 of taxable, $100 non-taxable. Trying to save Social Security and Medicare tax for the board. So we can.
I don't have any, David, your call.
You know,
Leave as is.
I go back and forth, but almost, I'd rather just give her the 300. She's gonna be traveling a lot around community and not to keep up with it. It's part of the package.
If she doesn't have a mileage app, she's going to be spending more time writing mileage vouchers
It's
than you
very-
can
it
ever
is
imagine. My CPIs and APIs are already very upset with that. So I would hate to put that on our executive director if we don't have to.
And I can definitely have that discussion with her and say it's $300 taxable. If she wants to keep up with it and get it reimbursed as tax exempt, we can do it a hybrid method there. So sounds like the board is good with $300
Yeah.
tax exempt if possible.
Thank you. Or is there a motion to make that change?
What are you going to change?
Well, give the employee the opportunity to choose which one she'd rather have. 'Cause I think it's
But are you changing language in the contract or just the concept?
Yeah, I guess the
The-
contract
That's the
stays
question
the
I wanna
same in
know.
my mind.
well, the contract currently reads
Yeah.
that it's a car allowance of up to 300 and requires documentation. So if you want to give her 300, that could be changed to say a monthly car allowance of 300, and then remove the documentation requirement, leave the language that the employee is responsible for any personal income tax implications. Then at the end of the year, when she files her taxes, if she has kept up with it and wants to seek reimbursement for the portion that she can document, that's what I hear that she could do.
I think that's perfect. And we can do that throughout the year as well, or she can do it at the end of the year. I like
But
that.
it would be on her. But what you'd be giving would be $300 that she's not accounting to you for her mileage.
right.
So if I'm correct, then the change we would need to make is to strike the next to the last sentence from the contract, which is employees required to submit documentation.
Right, and strike the words of up to 300, so it would be a car allowance of $300, rather than up to 300.
Okay.
So I move that we
Amend.
amend the contract by striking the two words "up to" under 5B on line 2, as well as striking the next to the last sentence in 5B, which is employee is required to submit documentation of mileage driven for business purposes on a monthly basis.
I'll second.
All right, is there any further discussion on that item? All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. So back to the contract as a whole, is there any other issues?
Madam Chair, do you want a formal motion on the striking of 2C?
Yes, we need a formal motion on that.
I'll move that we strike paragraph 2C.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
Nice work, David.
Well, it wasn't me, but thank you. The group did it, but I appreciate that. So is there a motion to accept the contract?
Move to accept the contract as amended.
All right.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign? All right, thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. We're excited. So we'll send this to Ms. Greer. She already signed this one. We'll send this to her again. I'm sure she'll be fine with the changes. And she'll sign it, and then I'll sign it, and then we'll have a new executive director. So congratulations. Okay, so now we're on to report from Budget Committee. Dr. Smith.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. What you have, board members, provided for you is the management report. So if you refer to that, in our recent Budget Committee meeting, we went through this. Ryan, thanks for providing this. We went carefully through each page to look at the various reports, and since this is our first report, we wanted to just go through and make sure the reports work. And Ryan asked us if this is the format that we were comfortable with. So I think starting out, it looked good for us. I think it was clear and worked well. So you'll see, just walking through this report, we start out with the balance sheet. Of course, limiting or expressing the current assets and liabilities. We then move to the profit and loss by class. So you'll see the top is income. And yes, we do have income from two sources. We have our revenue and we have interest income. And then we have our list of expenses, and you'll see those categoricals of communication services, office equipment and supplies, insurance, professional services, and miscellaneous expenses. Of note, you'll see that the largest item that will occur in these reports is the tax collector fees of $200,056.50. So that is something that we will pay in the summer, but it will be accounted for as we progress through the year. So there will actually be 3 of those entries by the time we pay in the summer. Moving to the next page, page 5, we have the trim line budget versus actual. So again, we're looking at income and expenses. And you'll see and you'll see the contrast between actual, which is the first column of numbers. The second column is the budget. And then you'll see the difference, the variance in the third column. So that gives you an item. You see a number of areas we have budgeted, have not yet actually incurred expenses at this particular time, but we do have some areas that have. And you see some of the obligations that we have are being or have been paid. The next report is the bill payment list. And these are specific items that have been paid for. And it gives you a straight listing by date. That's followed by unpaid bills.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
did we not have an invoice from Landrum? Not yet.
Oh, sorry, not yet. I think it's probably after we sign the contract with the employee, because we haven't finished that.
Understand.
Walter, good question, because that was raised in the budget committee too, so.
And I
Good
didn't, I don't recall, and I apologize for not recalling, but didn't we have a line of credit with Escambia County or something that we paid them back?
We never used the line of credit.
So it was, it was available but not tapped.
That's right.
So it doesn't appear in here at all. Is it no longer available? Was it like a no thank you? Did we formalize?
I don't
not-
think we took any formal action to get rid of it.
I wonder if we need to, like, disassociate ourselves with it so that we don't get tied to it should anything happen to it. It's just an idea.
Let's put that on the agenda for next month, since it's not on the agenda for today, and
Yeah.
I'll look into that with Ms. Crawford. We've become good friends.
Okay, so the unpaid bills is on page 8. The top bill for $22.90, a check has been drafted for that, so that should become a paid bill soon. And then you see the $200,000 entry for to the tax commissioner. Again, that's one of 3 that will be accumulated and paid in the summer. We then move on to.
Dr. Smith? Sorry.
Yes.
I noticed that there wasn't any, maybe travel invoice or something from Tammy. I see we paid the other applicants maybe a travel fee. Didn't she have a travel fee also?
She did not submit any invoices for reimbursement, so we can ask her about that, but she never submitted any invoices.
On page 9, we start with the general ledger. So here we get into some more detail of money coming in, money going out. And you'll see some of those bill payments specifically noted. You'll see at the bottom of page 9, we begin with the accounts payable, and that's going to be the most lengthy part of this report at this particular time. So you'll see, again, we're paying the bills and our obligations. Then on page 11, we get into the collection fees. The revenues, interest income, website administration, office equipment and supplies. On page 12, we get into directors and officers' insurance, accounting fees, professional services, and miscellaneous expenses. So the report ends on page 13, and that is our general ledger. So that is the management report. Are there any concerns or questions about the report? Are we comfortable moving forward with this format? Everybody good? Okay. We also had some expenses that we wanted our new executive director to be able to purchase things such as a laptop, monitors, some software. It totaled under $3,000. So there was a motion, second, and approval by the committee to approve our executive director to spend up to $3,000 on those items. Now, do we need to have that voted on here?
As a recommendation from the committee.
Okay, so we would need a motion, a second,
It's a recommendation from the budget committee to,
okay.
You see-
So-
what-
that
so-
way it didn't have to have a second.
Yeah, so it's a,
from the committee.
right, it's a recommendation
so
from the
the-
budget committee.
So the recommendation from the Budget Committee is to authorize that expenditure of up to $3,000 for our executive director.
Is there, it does not need a second. Is there any discussion on
Thank
that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so Ms. Greer will have up to $3,000 for her startup expenses.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that concludes our committee report.
There was two things. You were going to look into piggybacking on the school board because of the sales tax issue?
Yes,
That
I
was-
have not heard back on that
Okay,
yet.
okay. And then for a credit card going forward, which the bank is ready to send, we need to put down a number for a credit limit.
So that would be a monthly credit limit that we need to establish.
Dr. Smith, we have an operating budget, the cap that is authorized under the executive director that's not salary, just expense.
I do not believe we have that established.
I think it's something that we have in the policies and procedures. Didn't we discuss a cap? But that hasn't been approved yet because we were waiting for our executive director to kind of look over the ones that Ms. Bush had created, just to make sure. And
There is a cap in that
I can
policy. I
look at
don't
it.
recall
I can look
the
at it, let me
amount.
see. Because we did have that discussion, and maybe that's what we need to, or was that was a discussion on the amount she could spend without board authorization though, wasn't it?
Right.
So. Is that the same thing? That's maybe not the same thing, is it?
No, I don't think that's, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that's,
it is.
no, it's,
Yeah.
I was trying to think if there's like $100,000 budget for operation expenses or 120,000 to use a good number, 10,000 a month. And then whether that's something that we'd want to approve under a credit authorization or maybe half that, 5,000 a month on a credit authorization. I have no perspective on what the cost of the organization is going to be to build an office, files and paper and everything that they have to, Office Depot type stuff or wherever else they buy their paper.
It's going to vary month to month, I'm sure.
Yeah. So as we move forward, and the difficulty is you get those ebbs and flows. There's one month that you need $10,000 of purchases, so perhaps we need to set an amount such as $5,000 as a starting point, and then have some, if there's a special request to go over that amount, we could proceed accordingly that way. I'm not sure if anybody else has an amount that you're thinking of.
Well, and certainly, I mean, I guess in my mind, we could cut off the credit card, just like we would anything else. I mean, if there became an issue, so, but you hate to be one of those things where a committee,
We need to monitor someone needs to monitor the credit card every time it gets a notification, so.
The other piece too is if we start with 5,000 and then that becomes problematic that we're needing lots of requests, we can always adjust that limit.
One thought, part of the timing issue, she gets here in a week. your next meeting is 3 weeks after that, you know, she'll have a pretty good handle, I think, pretty quickly of her immediate needs. But I hate for her to have to wait a whole month. So if you gave her, besides the $3,000 for her hardware, anyway.
Okay.
Well, doesn't that beg the question as to what would be an authorized expense? I mean, I think when we're talking about limits, we also have to consider what we would be considering an authorized expense. So maybe this is a discussion that needs to happen at a committee meeting.
I would say we need to have this at a policy committee meeting as to what, I mean, I don't see her going out and buying lunch and putting that to the. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
Can we wait on the credit card?
Can we say at this point
No.
that you want to do
Oh,
a
yes.
$5,000 or a $10,000 limit, and we'll just assess it again?
Y'all
Yeah,
are
I'm
going to
okay with
love
that.
her. She said, I've come from a nonprofit background, so I'm really used to doing things as frugally as I can. So she's going to be great. I'm just,
So on the proposed policy, it's $5,000 is the limit for, well, this says chief or director discretion, between $5,000 and $35,000, 3 written quotes required, and then upwards of 35 formal competitive processes. And again, this is just a draft. It's not been approved by the policy, but to answer your earlier question, Ms. Hightower, it's basically at her discretion up to a $5,000 expense is what was proposed.
I'm looking at the trim budget from an earlier meeting, and it shows a budget part that says administrative, and then there's a breakout for office equipment and supplies. That's at 11,600. I don't think that's going to be an accurate number, but it's there. Certainly, that would not mean 5,000 a month. So I would think 5,000 a month would be more than enough to manage, and I'd be very comfortable with proposing that amount as a monthly cap.
So are you proposing that?
So is that your
Is it a
motion?
motion?
It can come from you because we didn't discuss it at committee.
I'd like to move that we authorize the executive director to have the authority to spend up to $5,000 on a credit card
Second.
Okay, motion has
per
been made.
month. Apologize.
I guess, Madam Chair, you take this.
Yeah.
I do,
Yes.
okay. Motion has been, policies, Robert's rules. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right, all in favor of the motion for $5,000 a month on the credit card limit?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that passes, so we can do that. Is there anything else from the Budget Committee we needed to discuss, Ms. Appleyard? No? Okay, at this time, there's public forum. I do want to introduce Ryan. I know he gives it our last meeting, I think, before, but this is our accountant, Ryan, so just thank you. And he's the one who prepares, he and Gloria prepare all these wonderful reports for us, so thank you for that. Is there any discussion, any forums for public comment?
I have one question quickly. The information that we got as the financial report, will that in the future be attached to our agenda so that the public would be aware of it?
Yes, it will be.
And can I confirm that our next meeting is March 8th before we get public comment and adjourn?
Yes, the next meeting is March the 8th, and I'm sorry, that was not on the agenda. That's my fault. Is there is any public comment? Okay, do you have a form, sir, that you filled out? We don't have any. Well, come on up and, Ms. Appleyard has some, and we'll write your name down. We just have to have it for the records. Yes, you've been here before, Mr. Washington.
How everybody doing?
Hey.
Hey,
Your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Benny Washington. Once again, I'm with James B. Washington Education and Sports, a nonprofit organization. And we do tutoring, arts and crafts, basketball, field trips, college visits. We do a lot of incredible things with the kids. And we have been fortunate to have a building donated at 3920 West Navy Boulevard, right there by Warrenton Middle School. And We are trying to partnership with Warrenton, talk to Mr. Wilson, and try to get some of those kids without the school program. We have a lot of exciting things from tutoring, sports, arts and crafts to work with that program. So I guess I looked at the schedule wrong and maybe I'm at the wrong meeting. I guess I have one question. When do we start applying for the application to try to get the grant? That's my question. Is this the wrong meeting for that?
No, that we hopefully soon. I can't tell you the date because hopefully, what month are we in? February? Hopefully. You said by August. By August.
Oh, by August?
Well, or before, no, hopefully applications out before then and to hand out, and to start getting grants out by August. That was our goal.
Okay.
Now that we have executive director, we'll see. Hopefully, I have a feeling she's going to hit the ground running, so maybe it'll be before that.
And
Just
so is anything else we need to be doing?
sign up online for, go to our website, it's Escambia Children's Trust,
Okay.
and you can get newsletters, and we will make sure that you know when to apply for this grant,
Okay, all right,
or
well,
this
sounds good.
contract. Yes.
Sounds good. Well, thank you all so much for all your help.
Thank you.
Thanks for the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, so, are there any more comments?
I'm excited that we had public comment.
Oh, thank you
Let's
for
have
coming.
more of that, please.
All right, before we adjourn, I want to echo what David said about Miss Appleyard. Thank you so much, and I know we all do, and Emily.
Yes.
So. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned. Well,